I think what you said was very important too when you say swapping from just telling people what you do for work, and you said it brilliantly, telling people who you sold your labor to. That's a
Hmm.
very different way of looking at things, because a lot of us, and this isn't a bad thing, I think this
No.
is important. It's not a bad thing, but it can be a painful thing, especially when your identity is no longer attached to that role of labor, right? Like I remember before I started my business, I was this training director for a large wireless company, and who I was, 90% of who I was that. And I attached my identity to that. I attached my sense of worth to that. And when I no longer
Mhm.
did that, and when I started my own business and I realized people don't know who I am in this business world, they only knew who I was in this corporate world. I realized I need to attach my self-worth to a mission, something of greater meaning, not just what my job title is. And I think it's incredible that you discovered that, because I feel like some people go through their entire lives continuing to attach their identity to even what they did before they retired. I meet people who were retirees, and they just talk about the good old days. They talk about the work that
Right.
they did. And again, that's their life, that's their experience. That might be great. But I'm curious, when people ask you what you do for work, like when you're traveling, let's say in Spain as an example, and you're at the hostel, and other people who are attached to these things that we used to be attached to ask you, okay, well, Roger, what do you do for work? Tell me about you. What do you tell people now?
Yeah, I tell people I cross things off my bucket list. That is that is that is my answer, and it was my answer when I was still working, Brandon. I mean, think because I came home from the Camino, I was still working, and what happened was is that a friend of mine at work who I'd worked with for 4.5 years, I went to the office and she said, "How was your trip?" And I said, "I'll show you." So I showed her this Instagram reel that I had made. There was just a slideshow of selfies that I'd taken with
Wow.
everyone that I had met along the way. And when she was done watching this 30-second video, she goes, "I've never seen you that happy before." Uh, and I was blown away. 4.5 years, you've never seen me that happy. There's a problem there. And so I quit my job like 3-4 weeks later and decided
Wow.
that I was just going to take an adult gap year and do this. Now everybody can't do that. I understand that. Not everybody's as privileged as I am. Not everybody is fortunate enough that, I spent many years building up a retirement fund that I could kind of raid and take a year off. And I understand that we all have 168 hours.
Mhm.
Every one of us, we have 168 hours. And if you work for 40 and you sleep for 50, that still leaves you like 70 hours. It's
Mhm.
what are you doing with those 70 hours in your week that you're claiming yourself? Corporations and institutions talk about, work-life balance. You got to have work-life balance. We want you to have work-life balance. Well, that's not true. And I know it's not true because now they're calling people that have work-life balance quiet quitters. So
Wow.
so it's not true. It's not what they wanted. And because what really happened is I think, during the Great Resignation and all those things that people started setting work-life boundaries. And the corporations don't like that.
Mhm.
The institutions don't like that. They want you to give all you've got, which even means that once you leave and you clock out, that you're still thinking about work, that you're exhausted from work and can't do other things, that your mind is constantly working. You can't get to sleep in time because you're thinking about what to do the next day. It's not just the amount of hours that you clock in, it's the fact that it takes over everything else. And so I'm a big proponent of saying, you need to have work-life boundaries. And when the clock stops, the clock stops. I worked with teenagers for almost 30 years. And, in today's world, I get text messages at, midnight saying, "Hey, I need help with this math problem," or, my, college app is due in 10 minutes. What, can you help? Can you look at it and read it over for me? And that's the life of a teenager. I get it. But, I had to set boundaries. And I was one of the only people in my office that did. Said, you can reach me from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. After that is my time. I got to
Yes.
have my time. And that's all we're really talking about here is what are you doing with those, 60, 70 hours that you have left over after sleep and work? What are you doing with that time? And how are you benefiting yourself and bringing yourself joy? Because no one else is going to bring it to you. You have to provide it yourself. What are you going to do to bring yourself joy? And for me, I found that in having a bucket list and crossing things off of it.